Hello guys and welcome. Today let's talk about Elden Ring. You know, I'm not really sure what's going on. Is Elden Ring really the community with most delusional fans ever? Or are these just promotional accounts? Because if you go on Elden Ring Reddit, it's almost impossible to see any criticism about this game. And what is very interesting, they have like 800 online users, but their posts sometimes get like 10,000 likes. And just look at this. I mean, even stats don't lie. There are almost less than 30,000 players playing Elden Ring, when there was like 1 million players playing it at one point, right? So they lost basically like 80% of their actual player base, if not more. And we are still just praising them every game, because the reality is these games have no true replayability. That's why they have to make new game every year, because they don't know how to reach replayability through actual multiplayer elements. So you allow people to make their own content, you have no leaderboards and rewards, they don't know how to combine PvE and PvP elements, and that's the reality of their games. If you check any of those comments here, it's just those guys praising the gaming studio. But when you are being objective, honestly, Elden Ring is probably one of the most outdated game in the history of gaming, right? They use AI, they rehash most of their assets, they showed literally zero innovation. Their games have no true replayability, no social elements, no multiplayer elements, no leaderboards, not even a PC keyboard scheme, right? But they are basically glorified console games that haven't really seen any innovation in 20 years, you know. And even when they do, like for example Elden Ring, it's just when you play those games, you just feel like you're being punished by the game design, honestly. And they are still charging like 60 euros for this game, more than $60, right? Like, I don't really understand what's going on. Maybe these guys just discovered the true secret of success, which is basically in today's age is basically manipulation of social media, making promotional accounts, thousands of them, to manipulate Reddit, YouTube. This is how you make a popular, this is how you become successful in today's age. It's basically how good are you at keeping up the illusion, right? And now you have a lot of these other gaming studios trying to copy them, thinking they will get the same success, but they really won't. Path of Exile is typical example. They copy dodge mechanic, they copy hardcore, and I'm not really sure what's going on. Do they just remove any criticism? Does all the criticism just simply gets downvoted, and once you get negative karma or you have an unpopular opinion, you basically can't comment on these Reddits anymore, And now, instead of actually showing some innovation, instead of listening to the community, what we want, some basic social multiplayer elements, some actual replayability, not just a single player artificial replayability where you have to play the same content over and over again to get all the items, punishing any completionist. Now instead of that, they just make another outdated co-op game, How can even a game that doesn't even have multiplayer even be considered GOTY game, even one of the best games ever? Like, just tell me what they did anything special, right? Today most of the assets, maps, they can literally made with AI. They can rehash most of the assets, from previous games. That doesn't take that much work, and graphic and sound design, okay, it's good, but that's all there is to it. That's honestly all there is to it, to Elden Ring, really, in this age. It's just, you have good, the game looks good, but when you look deep down on it, you just see outdated shell of, they are supposed to. This is what one of the saddest thing about most Japanese gaming studios, or Korean or Chinese. They make good games, but they never make complete games. right? They have one of the biggest franchise in the whole world, one of the best franchise ever made. Monster Hunter, Soul Series, Final Fantasy. They're supposed to make dream game for us, right? But they never did, because they still think competition in multiplayer is a bad thing, because they show zero innovation. But then they just pay somebody and they get a best award, you know, or they manipulate so many people on social media, or they pay YouTubers to manipulate people, and that's how you get successful, right? That's how you get successful, I guess. You don't need to make complete or fun game anymore, you know. You don't need to show any innovation, any character, you know. You just use AI, rehash the same thing, think acting like you are special, manipulate thousands of people, and that's how you become successful, I guess, you know. And some of these games like Dark Souls 3, they still cost like 60, 70 bucks on Steam. And people always praise these guys, you know. They always praise them, right? But most of the people already spend like 100 bucks. And the game is so incomplete. You can't even play it on PC or on Steam, right? Because you don't even have basic keyboard scheme. The game is supposed to be built around, you know, character building, progression, but you cannot really do that because you have limited amount of larva tiers, so you can't really try any fun builds in the game. There is literally no end game, and because you also have no multiplayer, no PvP, barely any PvP, no leaderboards, rewards of any kind, no basic social elements. Like literally the best social elements in Elden Ring are some stupid messages on the floor that never helped you anything. Right? That's literally the best social element Miyazaki could come up with in this age, when games 20 years ago had better social elements like chat bubbles, voice chat, you know? I highly suggest watching the King's Avatar animation. It's probably one of the best gaming animation out there, and you can really learn how to make a complete MMORPG or MOBA style game, or literally any game in that matter, you know? I just don't understand. You know, Tencent made such a good gaming animation, but when it comes to their games, they're not really that innovative. I mean, they are. You know, Dungeonborn was pretty good. Path of Exile is pretty good, even though they try to copy some of the mechanics from other games, which doesn't really make sense because these games were never really complete games. And Miyazaki always talks about like how he wants to make a complete game, but he never made a single complete game in his life, and that's a reality. And he never will, because he thinks multiplayer and social elements are not needed in gaming, which is why most people play games in the first place. I mean, I don't. If you like single play, I don't care what kind of game you play. You play what you play. Nobody forcing you to play anything. But to just simply ignore most of your player base and then act like you have some complete game, and every time somebody criticizes you, you talk down to them. You go to their channel, you downvote, you know, you always, you know, that's not how we are supposed to feel, how we are supposed to treat fellow community members, and how we are supposed to treat criticism, you know. These guys are not real, and that's why they are just wasting their franchise, and they always feel that, I mean, they think that this is what makes them special, but in reality they're just being outdated, you know. These games have no replayability. So many missing. The game could be so much more. That's just basically how you can, in short, right? They could be so much more. You know, they already have good base games. They just need to add a bit on top of it, really. I mean, just look at this. I mean, even stats don't lie. There are almost less than 30,000 players playing Elden Ring, when there was like 1 million players playing it at one point, right? So they lost basically like 80% of their actual player base, if not more. And we are still just praising them every game, because the reality is these games have no true replayability. That's why they have to make new game every year, because they have they don't know how to reach replayability through actual multiplayer elements. So you allow people to make their own content. You have no leaderboards and rewards. You know, they don't know how to combine PvE and PvP elements, and that's the reality of their games. So, and then you go to, and that's also why nobody takes Reddit. Nobody cares about Reddit anymore. It's just this. There is no criticism anymore. It's just promotion, fake promotion. That's all it is. Because most of these big companies today just use sites like Reddit and YouTube for promotion and manipulation, and that's all there is to it. You know, and that's why these platforms will eventually die, because they do nothing about countless promotional accounts. They do nothing about you know, it's just pointless, and 90% of content creators also have no chance anymore on top of that, right? So